Okay, so I've got my floor and the walls set up around this entry here. So now I want to have a look at it in section and think about the detail that we're going to need to have for this threshold. So firstly, sort of make sure it's clear that you need to have the slab in line with the inside skin of brickwork. And so we can't see that here because the door's there, so I might just even select that door and delete it so that you can see the brickwork and see where that floor edge should be lining up. And so I'm going to undo that because I don't want to delete that door in the end. But then maybe I will just quickly select that floor and go back to the ground floor plan and edit the boundary so that you can see again where the line of that floor should be. So that's really important because we're going to have the detail with the brick extending down, set below the edge of that slab, which is a nice thing to have. And so that's got to be the starting point. And then, just to give you a little tip here, if you see this message, whenever you see the one about join geometry, always say yes. Otherwise, you've got to do it manually. And so then again, I'm going to go back to that section so that you can see the first thing we've got to put in is the slab edge. So I've deleted any slab edges on this floor because I want to redo them. And so now I'll go to the 3D view. And I've already hidden any extra floors for tiles and things that were sitting on top of my slab so that I can then just easily select that slab that I want to work with. And I'll go down here to isolate element. And then we can do the slab. So we're going to use this view to create the slab edge, but before we do that, we've got to make a profile for that slab edge. We're going to make a new profile, new family, and use the metric profile template. And if you're not sure which of these to use, always use the ones with the simpler names if you can. So these hosted ones, they're for specific things, generally don't need. So again, just metric profile. Okay, so let's see if I can remember all the measurements. So here I want to draw a rectangle, so I'm going to use the line tool for that. And actually maybe I'll just quickly draw a rectangle by eye and then come back and think about the measurements. So it's 160 from the edge, and then it's going to be so I'll think about this. So I'm going to draw by eye again. Oops. So got my rectangle, and notice I've just drawn it so it goes over this center line. That's the only important thing, and then the top edge lines up with this this baseline as well. So now I'm going to select this edge. So that's the 160. Yeah, that's right. So that's from the outside of the wall. So this line here is going to be the edge of our slab edge that should line up exactly with the exterior wall. So I'm going to drag this witness line dimension back to there and make that 160. And actually maybe it's like, I'm just going to draw in dimensions and then you can see it better as well. So here I'll just draw that dimension in, which would have helped to adjust that line. Of course now we can select the line and the dimension comes off straight away. So then I'll draw another dimension using these two outer lines, place it down below. So then we want this dimension to be, what do we say, 250, if it was. Oh, that's coming down, we're going to go 275 down. But yeah, 250 this way. So remember, we're pretty sure that was it. That one's a bit arbitrary, we're basically making that up and trying to guess what the engineer would tell us. But then the height, so that depth there is the 275. Pretty sure that's the size we want. So, and I just got that from measuring the concrete blocks to the nearest concrete block that we had under the slab, so we don't have to cut any blocks, which is a nice thing. You can have it like that. So that's it. So you can use those exact dimensions. I'll just draw the last one on there so you can see it. So 275 by 250. So, yeah. Oh, concrete block's better. Yeah. Yeah, which is better. It's going to be tanked anyway, so no need for brickwork. It's cheaper. Yeah, and structurally it's better too. So, so that's it. So that's my profile. I'll load this so you can use it. So I'll save it so you can use it. So I was going to save as family, and I'll save it into that folder on the P drive. Revit library, and I'll just save it into profiles here, and we'll call it rectangle REC 50 by 275. And this can be used for all sorts of things, not just for slab edges. And a little tip I'll give you there, one of the first things I do, if I don't have it already, well, let's call it, say, the same as I've called it here, rectangle. Okay, because you use rectangles all the time, if you take this a bit further, you can make a rectangle family that's fully adjustable to any size you like. So instead of making a profile for each size, you can just have one family and it's adjustable. Yeah, with any profile you can do that, or any family you can do that too. Yeah, but yeah, it's especially useful with profiles because you use them for lots of different things. So I've got my profile, and now I'll just go back to loading the project. So that's loaded now, and then all I need to do is go back to that 3D view, which is already set up, and go to floor slab edge. And then here's the one we used before, but I want to make a brand new one, so I'll go to edit type, duplicate, and give it a new name. So we'll just call it, the dimension maybe 250 by 275. Beam, really what it is. And then from the list of profiles here, I can just choose that new profile I've loaded. That's it. Now if I click OK, I can then hopefully use Tab and select it all in one go, and well, okay, that should work normally. The way this floor has been made is a bit ridiculous actually, but let's see, that's it's not too bad. It should have done the whole thing. So now I'm just going to pick these edges that it's obviously missed out. It's much better than the way it was before. There we go, that's pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, so just get those, and I think that's, oh yeah, great, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that's got the whole lot. So that should be pretty perfect. So now I'll go back and reset the hide, and we of course can't see most of it here, but it should then line up and be flush with the outer wall here, which you can see it is. And so then this blockwork would just need to come down, and you can attach it to the floor, which will bring it down to the bottom of the floor. But then to hide that bit where it's overlapping the slab edge, all you need to do is, instead of using attach, you use join geometry. So we can choose the slab and then the wall, and it tidies it up pretty well. So in this one here, again, you could attach it and do all of those things, but it's often not necessary. And there we are. So that's starting to look pretty clean. Oh yeah, of course. If it's blockwork, otherwise it's too difficult. We'd have to have, you know, views and all sorts of things. So, yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And it's actually not a bad line to have. But yeah, rendering, that's definitely.
So that will fit underneath that brickwork core, and that's going to fit to when you get the inside slab edge.
Two bricks, yeah, 2 bricks down. But yeah, that's right. That's the idea. So now, if we go to the that section, right? So there it is. And so we can tidy it up further using join and getting that slab edge joined to the wall. So the idea there is that you just want the heavy lines to be on the outside of where it's being cut, and all the internal things, even though they're being cut, they shouldn't have a heavy line. And then start putting in the detail. But for that you might want to do a call out. And don't worry if you're thinking that the work you do in the call out is just going to be there, because you can put it back into the section if you want to. You have to copy and paste it, but you can do that. So you may not need it though, but if you need it, if you want it, you can. So here I'm just going to go to view and make a call out. Just doing the rectangular one around that threshold, and maybe we'll try and pick up some of the step as well, or the landing at least. So I've got that, that call out, of course, and then now in the list of sections, it's added that new call out to the list. So I'm just going to change the detail back to fine, and maybe make the scale even less, so at least 1 to 20, but I'd say for this you can do 1 to 10. That's how it's going to fit. And then we can see there are a few more lines that need to be joined. This floor is actually going to come back anyway once we put the threshold in, so it probably doesn't need to be joined to that floor actually. So then, if you get these threshold details, you should be able to work out the detail for that. And you can use some of your own judgment, so you don't need the drain. You only really need the drain if you're going to have that landing at the same height as your door. So that's an option if you want to try that. It's a nice thing, because more and more these days that's what's being done for apartments definitely, but even for houses it's pretty common. I've even done basement level bedrooms and things like that with some outdoor space that was below ground, where you normally would be too frightened to have the outer level at the same height. In the old days you would never do that because it was too dangerous. You'd have the water coming in all the time. But because they've got so many good drains and products like that these days, and pump out systems and things, it's pretty safe. So I've done a few recently where it was flush with the outside, even below ground, and haven't had any problems. The last one, that one that I'm thinking of, God, that would have been 2005 or something, and it's never leaked. So you can try that if you want to, but then the other option is to do a detail like this. Oh, no, not that one. Like this. So again, it's up to you entirely. And so I'm not going to go through all the drawing of that, but essentially you just need to know which tools to use. You've got the Annotate tab there for your detail lines. You've got filled regions and masking regions, of course, and insulation and everything else. And then don't forget your repeating details. So here, they're still going to be useful, even though I was thinking you're not going to have any timber to show, but the brickwork should definitely be shown. So that's a good one to look at quickly. So just to remind you how to get the repeating details, I'm going to go File, Open, click where it says Open. Don't try to use any of these sub options, or even that sample file shortcut doesn't really help you much. So just going to click where it says Open, browse and find a sample files folder. And a good tip there, if you keep the old ones, it helps a lot. So these are from older versions of Revit, and that's sometimes the only way to get to certain things, because with the new one, I'll just show you the new sample files folder. It looks basically the same, but it's mainly for things like stairs, but also railings. They've changed them a bit. So with the new release of, say, 2019 or 2018 Revit, you don't get all the stairs that you used to get. So if you want to get the old ones, just keep a copy of the older libraries, and it's really handy sometimes, because those things still work with the new versions of Revit. So that can be handy. But the repeating details file, I don't think that one's changed much at all. So I'm opening that up, and I want the brick, even though I know the brick one does come with most project files anyway. So I'll also show you a little bit how to make your own repeating details. It's pretty easy. So this one here is obviously a repeating detail for brickwork. So I'm going to check the measurements there. It should be right, because Australia is pretty good with standard brick sizes, but okay, having said that, no, it's not. Okay, so that's not right. Right, so let's have a look at the old one. just been using my own for so long, I haven't looked at these for a while. So this is the old one. I'll open that. So that's from 2010. Upgrade sometimes takes a minute. Okay, so well, we'll have a look at the one in the project. I think the one that comes with your project is actually the right size. But yeah, you can see that's 75, so this must be an American brick. So I think that's the size they do. Okay, so I'll show you in a second how to adjust these, but let's go back just quickly and have a look at the project file, because I'm pretty sure when you go to place a repeating detail, you'll get this one here that is in your project already. It's called brick. And I'll just draw it to the side just to check it. And I'm just curious to see what the measurements are for this. Yeah, so this is right. So that's an Australian brick. It's so bizarre. So that one's okay. So you don't need to make your own. But I will show you just very quickly how easy it is, because it's not hard at all. So if you want to make your own, essentially, you need to be able to make a detail component, or at least access them. So if I go to detail component here, you'll see we've got all of these 2D details. So I'll just place this one so you can see how it looks. So that brick detail is obviously just one brick. And to check out the way they've been made, and it's good just to experiment with this, you can select them and then go to Edit Family, and it'll even make that file. If you can't find it, it'll create it for you. So if I choose Edit Family, it's taking me to this file called Brick Standard, and it's probably just created that file. And they are just made up of things that you're already pretty used to, I'm sure. Filled regions, masking regions, and detail lines. Even though in a family like this, they're actually called symbolic lines, or even just lines, but that essentially means they're symbolic lines. I'm sure that's probably going to say somewhere. Oh no, they're detail lines, sorry. They are detail lines. But again, they're just called lines here. So yeah, so they're pretty easy to make. In some ways it's a good way to start working with parameters, because parameters with a 2D file, again, are a bit easier than with 3D things sometimes. Now I'm going to close that one. I just wanted to give you an idea how they work. And so then to make that work as a repeating detail, all you do is you've got to start with firstly it's usually easiest anyway, you start with an existing repeating detail. So in fact, maybe I will just give you a quick example with the right size brick. So you can get an idea about that. So I'm going to select this one, Edit Family, and you can see there it's got that height and length as parameters. And then the width as well. So they're all adjustable, so I don't need to make anything in this file or make any changes. I just wanted to have a look at that. So I'll select that brick, go to Edit Type, duplicate, and we're going to call this Oz Stretcher, or just Oz Standard brick. One thing Australia did 100% right back in the, I think it was the end of the 19th century, but it could have been beginning of the 20th. No, it was the end of the 19th. Came up with standard brick size and just used it for everything, which very few other countries have done. Amazingly, always amazingly. So here we can put in the size, 76, joint thickness 10, and then width 110. And that's it. So now I've got that the right size. And then to make this an Australian brick section, so I'll just copy that over to the left. And then again, Edit Type, duplicate, and we'll call it Brick Oz, maybe section up here. and then just put in the spacing, which is again 86, and choose the right detail. And that's it. It's that easy. Yeah, but if it's a standard brick, that is a standard brick in Australia. Yeah, that's the standard brick. They've got lots of variations, which annoys me because, I mean, they're good for certain things, but now you can't do party bricks anymore. I think, well, why bother with all those other sizes? Maybe for decorative reasons you might. And there are, I'm sure there are good reasons. Apparently it's quicker to lay them and things like that.
It's an expensive brick for one supplier and then you go and get another brick in inside the wall cheaper.
Oh, you can with their standard sizes. Yeah, that's the great thing. You can. Yeah, and they are. They'll all do those standard bricks. Every manufacturer. Yeah. So yeah. So then now, I could use that repeating detail in my own file. If I select it, again, copy the clipboard, switch back to my own file, and then paste, and all that hard work just to get something that's going to basically look identical to what's there, pretty much. Oh no, it's a little bit better. It's got the mortar offset at least, which is nice. So I'm going to use that one since I've done the hard work. It's face brickwork. That's how face brick should be with the what do you call it? Yeah, that is the right name for them. Yeah, and then I was thinking of the pointing. So so that's a nice thing to show. We're going to have all the effort of face brickwork. So I'll flip it, and there it's not wanting to flip for me. So sometimes it's easier to try and find that by right clicking. Why doesn't it flip? And yeah, I can live with that. So at least stretch it down, and yeah, it's odd that it doesn't want to flip though, so I'll use mirror instead. Just turn the copy option off, and that's just going to do the same thing. And then move it into position, and so it just sits over the top of the 3D model. And this is really, if you're wondering about the differences between, say, Revit and ArchiCAD, this is one of the main differences in the way that it expects you to do details. And you can see here you've got to start thinking about things in a bit more detail. So there, you would actually need to have mortar. So if you move that up 10 mil, and well, so there's going to be an issue here. I'd say because these tiles would end up coming up higher, then that's going to solve that problem of the mortar being on top. Also, not the mortar being on top, that mortar's going to go, but that brickwork being flush with our current floor level, because it would be nice if we could have the threshold material going over the top of that brick. Yeah, I mean the tiles, it's only 20 mil, so yeah, so that's going to come up anyway, so that's okay. Yeah. So you might have to use masking regions, or the other alternative is just to manually put, for this detail, manually put that that detail family in, which would be fine. So yeah, so repeating details definitely can help, and for the block work here, that would be a nice thing to use repeating details for that as well, and show that your blocks line up with the ones drawn in the elevation there. So here, maybe we'll just bring that one down a bit further. Oops. Oh, in fact, oh yeah, that's actually done it. Well, it's not beautiful, but I'll make it a little bit better later. So with the threshold there. Oh, where have I gone? Sorry. Okay, so you could make your own profile, but probably there, if it's only for this one detail, it might be easier just to draw it with a filled region or something. So it looks basically like that, or like this. Actually, might be a good one. It's fine if you have it stepping up. You probably have to with this, and it's only going to be slight. That's why they've got that allowance in the BCA for thresholds to have almost any height, as long as it's below, well, For a building like this, I think it has to be below 190, but I know with class 1 you can go up to I think 230 for the threshold. So don't worry if it takes you over the height that you've got there with the bricks. And this is another funny part of the BCA. In the section on class 2 buildings, you'll see it doesn't actually have an allowance for that, but in the section on class 1 buildings it does. And they'll usually allow it even in class 2 buildings. Does that make sense? So if you've got to go up a bit higher there, that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, yesterday I didn't know West that big smaller fence from the west.
Oh yeah, that was shocking. Yeah, we had.
And I haven't had it from the west of the house on the step before.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
I felt a bit because for some reason stuff like to go around us. We had it for literally 5 minutes to go.
Yep. Yep. And we had a weather shield and everything on our door. Still went under it.
Yeah.
It was so intense. Yep.
Well, it's different,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And what we didn't have was that that threshold step, which would be a good thing, and then it would have stopped it. Because we've got those, you know, those automatic ones that come down. Yeah, 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 which are really good. But that still didn't do it on its own. Yeah, yeah. And I went under it as well, because we've got just an old slate step. Yeah. So I've got to put one of these weather shields or whatever they're called, transition moulding. That's it. And that's technically the threshold there, but it's all part of it. Oh, just this bit at the back. It covers that join the back. So it's just to give it basically to stop people kicking their toes.
Oh, I'm thinking, I thought that was cover from the origin over the top. I've got one from the drain.
Yeah. Yeah, well you can cover it up with this. Yeah. 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 Yeah, so cover it up. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so yeah, you can have it without that, and people just kick their toe occasionally. But it's a nice thing to have, and avoids all of those issues. It's like ramps. You know, people do thresholds all the time and have these little, 50mm steps and things like that, which is awful. And just a little ramp gets you around it. Because you can't change floor levels that amount usually. So that's it. It'd be nice if you showed the door there as well, but you're going to struggle to get the door family to show properly. So again, just draw in 2D over the top. Sometimes just a filled region or a masking region is all you need. So here I'd say just a filled region, and you all know that it's got lines that you can set a line weight to, and it's good if you get a better grasp of what these pens actually mean. So in details you can go a bit heavier than you would normally, but then if those line weights aren't obvious, you've got to have a look at your pen settings. So when you go to here, additional settings, and then look at starting with your line weights, and you've got pens from 1 to 16, I think we looked at this briefly before, and so then once you know that, you realise that those line styles have names that are really misleading, because here the one that's 0.35 pen, of course, isn't always 0.35. It can't be. And so the 0.5 pen is the one I use. So you can see there, it's using pen 5. So to know what that line weight is, we've got to go now to line weights. And then looking at pen 5, you can see at this scale, we're at 1 to 10, it's actually a 1mm pen. So the 0.5, usually you give the name for the scale or the size it is at 1 to 100. So it is 0.5 at that scale, but again, at different scales it changes. Which is a beautiful thing. It's something that AutoCAD never had. Well, they tried to put in AutoCAD with plot styles. They did, but it was too difficult for most people. So that's it. And then the rest, you can just do a mix of those threshold details. basically so that you've got a threshold piece that sits on top of the brickwork, and you can do it over, you don't need to have this sub-sill. So you can see there, you can actually put it straight onto the brick and have that as your threshold piece. It is possible. Yeah, so yeah, by combining those details, you should be able to get a pretty good one.
So we just have to show the example one of these.
Yeah, one threshold.
One bathroom.
Well, the bathroom's a different thing. I think I said, I mean, the details are up to you, but you basically need, I think it was 3 details.
So there's no 3 specific ones you want?
No, no. I mean, they should be junctions. So wall-floor junctions, wall-ceiling junctions, or wall-roof junctions. Normally what you look at.
No threshold.
Yeah, well, the threshold's a wall-floor junction. And that's a really good one, because then you're showing also the doorstep at the entry, which is a very important detail. So that's a nice one to have. Then maybe another good one for this building would be one that shows the box gutter. Yeah, so I want to go through that one, but I'm holding off because we're actually working out a more complicated version of it with the day class. Yeah. So we'll do that first, and then once I've got that sorted out, I'll go through with you.
So 3 details of 6
So
threshold.
remember what we did with the last year where we did the 3 details on top of each other?
Yes.
It's that.
Short, really short one.
No, the details. We had one of
Roof.
the roof wall, then we had one further down to the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is what we want.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It was done, yeah.
Except they won't be in the same place with this
Yeah,
one.
it won't be the same.
But yeah, that's the right idea. Yeah, yeah. So then the third one, it's up to you, but maybe the
Garage wall.
yeah, that could be, well, yeah, you can do a garage door. It's one you would have to do if you're doing this 3D construction. That's something you'd always have to give them, because
So you got ceiling.
you've got a few different contractors involved there usually. So that's a good one to have. But for this building, at this point, I think it might be overkill. So maybe the first floor slab, the way that connects to the wall, could be a good one. Or the ceiling, if you want to look at doing negative detailing or something, then you could do a ceiling detail showing the shadow line, if you wanted. And that's a really simple one, and that just shows that you know about shadow molds, which are a really handy product.
So when you're saying shadow line, taking the assumption that we're not doing cornices.
Yeah, if you want to do that. Otherwise, if you want to do a cornice,
No.
that's a good detail to do as well.
Stop the recording.
Oh yeah. So I'll finish that in a sec. So, but I was just going to make sure with this that you have a look at the size on the sheet. So that's maybe the very last thing. So let's make a new sheet quickly, and so it's a really good idea as you start to do details, put them on a sheet that you know the size, and just fine tune the size, because there's nothing worse than doing all that work on a detail and then realising that most of it won't actually go on your page. And then you can always come back and keep drawing away in it. And yep, that should do it, I think. So finish that.